What's up guys, BltzZ here today bringing you another video. In today's video we have more news and translations from the latest Famitsu article interviewing the directors of Final Fantasy VII Remake. This is a continuation of the previous two news related videos, so feel free to click the cards on the top right to check those out or wait till the end of the video. Once again, this is all made possible by the wonderful Audrey on Twitter. Feel free to check out her stuff, I will link it in the description below. These news updates will be coming to you guys as soon as possible whenever we get new updates. So definitely subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out. Now with all that being said, let's get into the video. In this video, we will be going over the interview with Hamaguchi and Aoki. His answers are a bit longer and provide more details, so it's best if we just get into it. Now that the game has been released, how are you feeling? Hamaguchi says, I felt very relieved after seeing the user feedback after the game was released. I fully joined the development team for Final Fantasy VII Remake in 2017 when fans had been waiting for this game for quite some time already. So I made it my mission to ensure that fans do not wait any longer than 3 years for the completion of the game. FF7 is a game that many people have come to love, so there was a real sense of responsibility to carry, but even so, the development team's staff is composed of people who are extremely passionate about Final Fantasy VII. So we're able to enjoy making this game while progressing on its development. Since you were involved with the development of the game, was there anything you were concerned about? Hamaguchi says, what was constantly said to the team was that we must respect the original game. We were not creating a new game that is only inspired by the characters and the world of Final Fantasy VII, but we strove to create a game where the elements of the original are remade using the latest game's design and graphics, making it feel more nostalgic, yet new. If we were to stray far away from the source material, then people might think this is not the Final Fantasy VII that I know. So we tried to follow the original story but added details that we could not add 20 years ago using the latest technology. With that, we were able to focus on enriching the story and creating an experience that is still the Final Fantasy VII that I know, but with a lot more new things waiting to be discovered. This answer here tells me that Hamaguchi and many others really don't want to stray away from the original game's story, which is really great to hear. Of course, there will be changes and surprises to certain areas of the story, but ultimately the main focus will not change. I'm okay with this as I've played the original many times over and over again. I wouldn't mind a one-for-one remake, but being surprised at certain things brings me a sense of curiousness I just really can't describe. I mentioned it before, but it really makes me feel like I'm re-experiencing my favorite game all over again from the beginning, and I don't know exactly what's coming next, so it's surprising when new things come up and old things reappear. The developers really understand what we as fans want, so I doubt they go as far as to shatter the original story in any way. A lot of you guys feel like the entire story has changed, but I want to just remind you guys that we are in the very beginning of this story still. Many of you guys should already know that based on how much we've all played the original game. There's still a lot to come and a lot more to enjoy. I'm here to enjoy the ride, and I hope they take their time making this so it's the highest quality that we the fans deserve. From the game's battle system to its story to the elaborate details of Midgar's various environments, including songs that sometimes only play in one scene, the game is full of a richness that has been carefully crafted, which shows that a lot of time and effort was spent creating this game. The staff must have been very enthusiastic, right? Hamaguchi says the remake was made possible by the enthusiasm from the entire staff. During the production of this game, the task division between development staff was even more than another Final Fantasy numbered game. For example, a person in charge of location would usually be a level designer that would spend 2 to 3 years on a single location's design, execution, and then implementation. And we had specific staff designed to work on all the locations as well. For battle parts, we had a single person in charge of 2 to 3 bosses at a time, and a level designers that also oversaw everything from design to implementation. With this scheme, we were able to have each game designer focus on only the parts that they are designated with, which allowed them to be more enthusiastic and particular with the production of their areas. However, because of this, each game designer felt very strongly of their work that they poured their all into. So in order not to lose satisfaction, we made it a priority to view the content as a whole within the team. By doing this, we were able to combine everyone's vision into the end product. I'm not a game designer by any means, nor have I worked on a big project with a team before, but I can only imagine that this would be the way that I would go about things to design them. This to me makes much more sense, so everyone is sort of on the same page when it comes to designs and how consistent things should be. This way the quality does not also drop off. There are some chapters and areas in Final Fantasy VII Remake that weren't my favorite to visit and revisit, but overall I think the designs were pretty strong and really engaging. Without having the battle system be solely either a command RPG or action style, it must have been challenging to fuse the two together. During development, there must have been some trial and error to get it right, but was there any part that was specifically concerning or challenging? Hamaguchi says one of the most particular parts was how are we going to incorporate the ATB battle system. We didn't want to incorporate a completely new battle system that was different from the original, so we were inspired by the original FF7's ATB battle system to create a new and improved one that also works in real time. Of course, I'm sure that the action elements that we added gives off a very fresh impression, but the root of the system is from the ATB battle system, allowing us to incorporate a sense of nostalgia to the battle system. The part we worked extremely hard on was how to fuse together action and command style elements. Many of the development team staff, including myself, have a long history working with command RPGs, so we were very confident with that type of battle style in the field. However, when we tried adding action elements in, there was a sense of discord within the battle system that we had. The part we were stuck on was that implementing a command system will cause the user to have too much information in regards to a fighting strategy, and that would only cause issues if we were also going to add real-time action options too. When we were doing the trial and error to figure out how to draw the line between how many action and command elements we could add, Battle Director Endo Teruki was actually able to join our team. He's extremely versed with action battle systems and how to develop them, so as soon as he saw what we had created, he immediately pointed out that we were lacking features in regards to the action elements of the battle system. Since we were having trouble figuring out a balance between the action and command elements, we really couldn't answer what we were lacking, since we just simply added in action elements. So we're not able to create a very refreshing experience. Luckily, Endo was able to concentrate on the action parts and balance out the battle system with a fast-paced command RPG strategy as well as action elements, which is what you see in the finished product. That was a lot to take in on one answer, but basically the combat system was difficult for them to come up with because they wanted to be sure to emulate the original game's battle system, but also put a twist on it. You guys know how I feel about the combat for this game. I personally love it. Yeah, it's not what we remember from the original, but it has those elements in it which are retained, and I do hope they expand on the classic mode difficulties and capabilities of what you can do, as well as a teammate AI. We've got amazing infinite health builds and instant limit break builds on this channel, so be sure to check those out after this video so that you guys can see a sneak peek at how in-depth the combat actually is, and maybe more versatility can be expected for Remake Part 2. In terms of creating an action battle system, I'm sure there were concerns about the increasing difficulty of that fighting style. For those who are not fond of action battle systems, there's also a classic mode, but was there anything else you guys were particularly conscious about? Hamaguchi says, for those who only wanted to enjoy the game's story, we implemented easy mode. For those who wanted to enjoy the command RPG style of fighting, we also created classic mode. So there are different styles that you can choose from. Since the classic mode was something we tried for the very first time, we were excited to hear the reactions of the players. I think the reviews have been favorable. We heard comments from users who enjoyed the normal mode's difficulty level, but in the classic mode style, so we will refer to their feedback in the future as well. So there you go, they heard the feedbacks on the difficulty levels for classic mode, so hopefully going forward the AI they implement can be smarter to handle itself on classic hard mode, but I can't wait to see what they add to this entirely to further expand on the mode itself. Since the game's release, I'm sure that most people have viewed the battle system in a very favorable light. What do you think about the reactions that you guys have seen thus far? Hamaguchi says, we feel that we've delivered the exact type of battle experience that users can accept. I think that this is thanks to the way we were able to create a system that not only reimagines the ATB battle system in real-time form, but also pays homage to the command RPG style, which leaves a sense of nostalgia while giving a fresh new experience to the battle style. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are interested in what kind of battle system we have in store for the next installment too. We would like the battle system to be even more customizable with more action and command strategies that users can curate into their own playing style, giving an even newer experience. So please look forward to that. So many things are coming to mind reading this. This is all positive news because they aren't simply trying to copy and paste this system to Remake Part 2. I'd love it if we got more materia slots, ability to have multiple summons and pair materia to them, as well as the Final Fantasy X character switch battle style, where we can bring in other members who are not in the direct trio of the main party. Just imagine being in an all-out battle with Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith, and you can swap in Red 13, Vincent, or Barret on a dime. I'd also love if they could add teammate combos like in Final Fantasy 15 or Dragon Quest 11. I can picture Tifa somersaulting an enemy into the air and Cloud just dive stabbing them back to the ground. And maybe even right after that, they do a little fist bump at the end. This is all great news, so rejoice guys, things are definitely looking up. It seems that the level cap at 50 has some limitations in regards to your status attributes and range, and since various weapons have their own strengths, it seems like you put thought into balancing out battles. In regular RPGs, characters grow and their weapons become stronger, but it feels like this was done in moderation. Was this balance something that the development team had planned from the beginning? Hamaguchi says, when we were stuck on how to create the battle system, we made changes to optimize the balance of the battle system. We wanted a balance that also incorporated the original Final Fantasy VII's customizable options with materia, and Battle Director Endo also had the same thoughts. However, if we allowed players to get as many materia as we would like, then they could technically give the same set of materia to each character, which would defeat the purpose of giving each character their own unique abilities. Thus, we decided to put limits on the amount of attributes that you can have. More so than putting on a moderation on gaining strength, we wanted players to have fun with the strategies that they could incorporate by using different materias or weapons. If you were to redo a battle, you could try other ways of setting up your weapons and materia to create stress-free battles, and I thought this was an important function to have. They definitely are not kidding. You guys have seen the crazy combinations we can make up in this game. Just imagine if we also had the original game's materia list as well as gaining a level 1 materia right after mastering it. I really hope the creators of this game see the different combinations we were able to come up with and in turn give us many other options as well. Personally, I'd love to see many of the purple materia from Remake Part 1 turned into character passive abilities such as Skill Master materia, ATB Assist, Parry materia, Deadly Dodge, Steadfast Block, and a few others. These are super important on many characters for builds, but they do get in the way when it comes to the freedom on trying out new stuff because of how important they are. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this. Boss battles within the game have different stages where the attacks or field changes, such as the sword dance battle that splits between two parties during the fight. Was this concept of having battles be set up in different stages as the fight progressed something that was decided on during the beginning of production? Hamaguchi says, "That's right, I told the team during the beginning that boss battles would be executed out in phases. Many of the bosses with each chapter contain some of the most exciting reveals, so we wanted players to be able to feel immersed within the story even through boss battles. In order to do that, we constructed each boss battle to have several different phases where the battle strategy changes and also focuses on the story at the same time. We also paid attention to the party structure. In particular, we spent a lot of time and effort to solidify the party structure during the battle with Sephiroth. The battle with the Whisper Harbinger that leads to the climax fight with Sephiroth is one that changes automatically, as does the structure of your party that you're fighting with. So the protagonists need to work together in order to challenge their own fate. However, we felt that if we were to do the same type of structure during Sephiroth's battle, then it might become tedious to the player. For example, if we were to take away one of the protagonists outside of the four, then the fans of that protagonist might feel let down. Because of that, we decided that the characters who join you during the Sephiroth battle will depend on how you fought the Whisper Harbinger. However, in order to do this, we had to create a ton of cutscenes depending on the order that the characters appear in. And even now, I remember the look on the cutscene team's members' faces when we proposed the idea and the blank stares that I received. But because Final Fantasy series is one that is known for having a large amount of cutscenes, I'm really grateful for the cutscene team members' assistance in not just the Sephiroth's battle scene, but for working so hard on all the cutscenes within the series too. I get that we're going for a more cinematic and immersive experience, but the phase changes were also something that I dislike. There was nothing worse than getting your limit break to wreck an enemy's health bar only to get the stop icon show up over it, meaning all damage is nullified until the following cutscene plays out. Very often I'd waste ATB in big damage spells during these moments, which is quite frustrating and throws off your game plan. But this also exists so that we don't steamroll bosses and just end them quickly. When it comes to the Harbinger and Sephiroth boss battles, I thought that was a cool addition, being able to control who your party is for the Sephiroth fight by achieving certain requirements during the previous battle of the Harbinger. It was actually a pretty cool twist. The first time, of course, I got Aerith and Tifa, but the second time on stream for hard mode, I actually got Aerith and Barret, which was a little bit harder. But depending on how much you use those characters and fulfill those requirements, you can actually change up the teams, and change also who arrives first to help you out. For me, I always got Aerith, which was interesting. I like the idea of what they were going for, but ultimately, I like the original game's way of letting us choose who we want to battle with. Basically, in the original game, I never clicked to check on my other party members during the final fight with Sephiroth. I don't know if you guys did that as well, but that just was something that I didn't do. There are weapons, accessories, materia, and items that were added into Remake that weren't present in the original game. Was there any particular reason for doing this? Hamaguchi says, right before the game went gold, I actually made an absurd request to the team to add the pedometer materia. You get this materia at the start of chapter 14, and since you are there to help people with odds and ends within sector 5 and 6 slums, you would need to walk around these areas a lot. Since you had visited these areas within chapter 8 and 9 already, there wouldn't be many changes. So I thought give players a reason for walking around these places again by adding in this materia. I actually originally called the materia the step materia, but I noticed that Toriyama changed the name to pedometer materia instead. I was reminded of it again when I saw the strategy book refer to that name. That's actually a pretty cool late addition to the game. I remember when I got the pedometer materia outside of Aerith's house, I thought it was one of the weirdest things. So I immediately equipped it and went to work on getting those 5,000 steps. And the fact that this turned into an AP up was amazing and helped me master a lot of materia quickly before I even beat normal. I hope in Remake Part 2 they do add more things such as this to the game. Hamaguchi does sound a bit salty that the materia name he chose was changed from the step materia to the pedometer materia. I mean, they both technically are the same thing, but I guess step may be a weird name. That could sound like kind of like stop materia, but there's got to be a reason why they changed that, I guess. Is there any specific monster or enemy, whether it be within the Coliseum or Battle Simulator, that piqued your interest? Hamaguchi says the level 7 top secret battle has quite a shock factor. The person in charge of the battle planning asked me, does it make sense for Bahamut to summon Ifrit? Since they are fighting in a virtual reality, it wouldn't be a problem. So I answered, yeah, go for it, without thinking too much about it. However, when I was doing a play check for the difficulty level of the battle, I remember being shocked. When that happens, you probably panic and think that you have to defeat Ifrit first, but it's actually more advantageous to focus on attacking Bahamut instead. This battle was the most difficult one for me, and it left quite an impression. Hamaguchi is definitely not alone there, as I'm more than positive everyone can agree that Bahamut is way harder than the Pride and Joy fight right after. This is probably done on purpose to give you a breather or a home stretch kind of feeling when going against Pride and Joy after Bahamut. I really hope we can eventually get more DLC or added challenges to face off against in VR, or maybe some godlike co-op to go with that. I'm sure that there are several younger development staff who have never played the original Final Fantasy VII, so were there any instances where there was a bit of a generation gap? Hamaguchi says since the original game was so widely loved by fans everywhere, there were a lot of younger staff members who were scared of making changes. On the other hand, producer Kitase wanted big changes. Nomura and I saw the remake as a homage to the original game, so if we were to change anything, we made sure that it would be something that was planned with a specific reason that fans could accept. This here is very important in many ways. Earlier in the Nomura portion of the interview in our first news video, Nomura says he's done a lot to preserve and keep the original story very much the same, while also putting a stop to many changes they tried to make towards the end of development. And Hamaguchi further backs up that claim by saying Kitase actually was the one who wanted big changes, not he or Nomura. He also further reinforces their standpoint by saying himself and Nomura want the remake to pay homage to the original game. So if they were to change anything, it would be something within a specific enough reason that we the fans would accept. Kitase wanting to make big changes is interesting given how much he said nothing is changing, but it also could be because the director showed him that that wasn't the way that they should go about this. I just feel like Nomura is getting lots of flack right now, and it's really not him it seems like. But then again, we don't know for sure, we can only go off of these interviews. Kitase was the original director of Final Fantasy VII Original, so it makes sense to me as to why he would want to try something different. As a creator, it feels sometimes weird to do the same things over and over again. I can kind of relate to that, so I can see where he's coming from there. However, I'm glad the overall team is sort of keeping a balance here. Just please, whatever you do not kill off Tifa, or I will seriously rage. I'm serious. Did you have any ideas or wishes that you were entertaining by yourself that was then made a reality in this game? Hamaguchi says, it's not something I was entertaining for a while, but having an automatic weapon growth system was something that I was focused on before working on Final Fantasy VII Remake, since I was on the development team for the Mobius Final Fantasy game, which left a strong impression on me. Since the smartphone game operates in a way that you return to it on a daily basis, lots of things are automated as such as possible to create a smooth experience. There's also a card synthesis system within the game that allows for an automated way to synthesize your cards. So that was a point I thought would be nice to have in Final Fantasy VII Remake, where weapons could automatically level up as well. I'm always thinking about the consumer side of things when developing games and being able to see customer reactions in real time. Such as when I was developing smartphone games, gave me an environment to try out a lot of the ideas that I had. I think that was a great experience for me. I've never played Final Fantasy Mobius myself, but I've heard about it from others. In my opinion, I think the weapon system in this game is phenomenal. In the original game, once you got a new weapon, you would toss out the Buster Sword or older ones as they gave no real reason to keep them. Certain other weapons in the original game gave multipliers for AP gained in materia slots, but outside of those, the lower stat or earlier obtained weapons became useless. However, in Remake, every weapon is viable and has strengths for specific builds and situations. This is very true for each and every single character that you play as in Remake Part 1. Following this method allows for every player to play differently and have a different experience overall. So I can't wait to see how they expand on this even further for Remake Part 2, and I'm excited to see what weapons we actually will be getting. As a gamer, was there anything in particular from Final Fantasy VII Remake that surprised or impressed you? Hamaguchi says, although I myself was involved too, I'm still very impressed that we were able to successfully create a game from start to finish without making compromises to any of the large amount of data that we had. This is all thanks to not only Nomura, Toriyama, and other directors such as me, but is also to the game designers, graphics team, sound team, system staff, and more. All of us had various responsibilities as creators, and it's because of the best efforts of everyone that we were able to make this game possible. I'm personally very excited to make the next game with the same team members again. You know, it's great to hear that the same exact team from Remake Part 1 will be continuing the story and working on the game for Part 2. This means the direction and drive for what they set out to accomplish won't waver, and the story elements can maintain consistency. There are lots of games out there where the sequel doesn't have the same writer, or many people leave to work on other projects, and the overall story sometimes is not up to par. And not only story elements too, but the quality of the game from a graphical and combat standpoint for Final Fantasy VII Remake, the gameplay to me is one of the best for the series. I can't wait to see how they further expand on this and make it that much better. Final Fantasy VII Remake is highly praised as a game with amazing quality with the latest technology. But was there anything that was challenging or something that you did not personally oversee but was still impressed with the outcome? Hamaguchi says, seeing the world of Final Fantasy VII open up through its story is one of the highlights that makes the game so enjoyable. But the user experience and story immersion could be greatly impacted with too many loading screens and wait times. We therefore kept a technical eye on the loading system since the beginning. In order to do this, we aligned the data with each situation so that we could simultaneously load, which allowed us to not have the loading screen appear during the middle of a chapter. During the last cutscene of each chapter, the next chapter's data would already be loading in the background, which allowed for the load screen between chapters to also be as short as possible. We also added tips to read on the load screen, but because the loading times were so short, it's also very difficult to read all of them. It made me cry out with joy. When it comes to the loading screens themselves, I can't really agree with him there. I personally had long load times between chapters on both my hard copy version and downloadable version. This wasn't a big issue for me, but I was still more than able to read the tips provided within the loading screens. However, when it comes to the in-game loading, that's where this game's engine shines really well. A lot of people complain that there are way too many crouch walking under objects or squeezing through corridor sequences. These are actually present to occupy us with a task while the game loads the next area. Plenty of games do this, of course, but I thought it was pretty fluid how often they were able to utilize this to keep us playing and prevent many loading screens from bombarding us in the middle of chapters. Lastly, is there anything you would like to say to the readers? Hamaguchi says the first installment of Final Fantasy VII Remake project was centered around Midgar, and we strive to create a Midgar that you could not experience in the original story, showcasing the hustle and bustle of the lives of people there as well as the environment. The next installment will then shift to the other parts of the world since the characters have escaped from Midgar in the story. We hope to create a game that allows you to experience the charm and allure in the world of Final Fantasy VII from the various lives of the people as well as the environments that will be present. Production of the next installment is already underway and our team is putting their all into the advancement of the game. Although there is still a wait, we hope you can look forward to what we have in store. I have great hopes for Remake Part 2. The devs clearly care about the story and the game overall the same way that us fans do. Hamaguchi's interview was crazy long, but I'm appreciative of the fact that he made sure to go into extra detail on many things. Combat system is definitely going to be improved on. The world of Final Fantasy VII is about to come to life. We've gone through the Midgar chapters and now we're here to focus on the rest of the story. As far as where Remake 2 may end, it's very hard to say. Let me know in the comments below, where do you guys think that Remake Part 2 may end? Some things to consider are that the combat system, character models, and design are all for the most part already created. It won't be a copy and paste, but majority of the groundwork, which takes a long time to develop, has already got a blueprint to follow. This is why I think they can go as far as the Northern Crater in Disc 2 from the original game. This would leave us with an epic cliffhanger in Cloud's story arc, while also covering a significant portion of the story. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below, so let's get a discussion going. Shoutouts to the members on the channel, you guys are the backbone of this channel. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys, and I hope to continue the momentum as we move forward with more live streams and videos overall. Be sure to join the channel memberships if you have not yet, so this way you guys can get access to video shoutouts like these, and of course, channel exclusive perks and emojis. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe if you are new. More Final Fantasy VII Remake videos and news coverage are coming your way and you won't want to miss them. My name is BltzZ and thanks for watching.